Breaking TV. Let the fun time begin.
Evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters, and welcome back to Primetime Terrors, where we are talking episode 8 of The Last of Us. I believe this one was titled The Last Resort.
I thought it was like when we are in need or something like that.
When we are in need or something like that. Either way, I'm not going to get these titles straight, so let's move on with it. This was a pretty impactful episode. Like I said last week, I was very excited to get to this point in the game. This is sort of the precursor to the climax. I don't know what you'd really want to call it, but like this is where we really start to solidify not only Joel and Ellie's relationship, but we also get pushed through a lot of really harrowing and terrible stuff. Really see what has become of the world with certain groups of people, and we've gotten to see a little bit of that with various people as we've gone through. For the most part, it's been a lot of like military or militant militias, your occasional characters that are pretty friendly, I would say, to start out. But yeah, this episode we're dealing with a bit of a cult. So Luke, how'd you feel about episode 8?
I enjoyed it. I think especially post-apocalyptic things like this, you kind of run into the evangelical cults. I think it's a pretty typical trope, but I think it was pretty well done here. And then you at least run into some sort of character that resorts to cannibalism. So I thought the unveiling was pretty fun. I kind of headed toward it when they were kind of giving everyone that soup a little bit earlier in the episode, but I thought it was fun. I enjoy what they did. I don't know what the season finale is going to look like. I thought, we were setting up for a main antagonist for the next, 2-episode arc here, but I guess that is not correct.
No, there's a little bit more of an incident, something that transpires in the end of the game here it's going to be a pretty epic season finale.
Are we on course?
Yes, we are very much on course. There was some slight changes here and there from what I remember from the game in this, but it was very slight. I mean, the character of James is something I want to touch on because he's a character that's not in the game. And there's a reason for that, is because he is being played by Troy Baker, who does the voice of Joel, which I thought was really cool. Very subtle character, but I thought that he did bring a lot to it. He's got a good screen presence. I think overall he's just a very strong actor. And when he went out, man, that was pretty brutal and intense, and I enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed his presence a lot. I thought that this works because even he said in the little behind the scenes thing that they do afterwards on HBO that he was like, when they told me that they were going to let me be in the show, I figured I'd just be like a clicker or something throwaway. But he's like, it's nice to have something with some meat on its bones. So it's nice. I enjoyed that a lot.
Meat on the bones. I like the reference, but no, I liked it. I like the inner David, and then with the other characters there as well, kind of falling in line or not falling in line with him, and kind of trying to do their own thing, but him kind of having overall say. I did like that interplay that they had throughout there. So I thought the way the characters were, not overly drawn out, but I did like the relationships that they at least built throughout I think this was like a 51-minute episode.
Something like that. It would have had to have been. There's no way you could have fit this into anything shorter. You could have even went a little longer with it in my book with a couple of things. Like, I thought that it was really everything they pulled from the game was executed brilliantly. There is a sequence I want to touch on here briefly, which is the interrogation sequence that Joel goes through with those two guys. It's basically beat for beat, damn near verbatim from what I remember happens in the game. And again, you really get to see the dark side of Joel come out when he's not fooling around and he's really going full tilt, and really why characters like his brother and things like that feel ashamed for what they were supposedly doing before they turned a new leaf. So, you really get to see that come out and play. And I thought it translated beautifully. It was really intense. I love the kneecap stuff. Like, it's all good.
and I love this of the Joel character, but you're kind of on board with him as well, where it's, I was actually talking throughout this episode, and I'm like, well, looking at him, he was there from the very beginning, and he's lived through so many different things. You really kind of lose a certain aspect of humanity. You know what human beings are capable of, especially in the environment here. So it's kind of like, you have to have that line where it's like, it's him or me, and I think Joel has that. And I think, it takes a great actor to kind of let you sympathize with that character, but also bring that element into it. And that is honestly one of the things I love about the Joel character, because I think it's played, I think it's realistic when we're going into something like what they're dealing with here. And it's been has it been 20 years or a little over?
Yeah, 20 years between the first episode and now. So
I think that's how characters are gonna act, and especially with the relationship that he has with Ellie, he's gonna do anything to kind of protect her and protect himself. So, those scenes like that, I think, are very visceral, but I think they resonate with a lot of people.
yeah, and so I want to get onto the character of David. How'd you feel about his character? I think that I was worried that they were going to hold back on a couple of things, but they actually went even further than what I remember in the game with some of his motivations there. I've been saying it for a while, like hinting towards it, but David's a sick fuck. And, I think that he was executed brilliantly. Great translation.
Yeah. Again, I don't have a reference point for it. But it was a character that, again, I thought was going to be here for the next episode as well. So I thought they were really building him up here, and it was someone that, um, again, I like the way that he was interplaying with the people that were supposed to be, I guess his followers, where do not kill Ellie, and then they were going to go ahead and do it. And then when he showed up, it was like, oh shit, we're in trouble. And I like the dialogue that he had with Ellie when he had her in the cell, and that unsettling moment where he had grabbed her hand. I that type of stuff is like, it's something where you realize that this character is very grimy and very dirty, but then
Hmm.
also in some odd way just in his head. And that makes for a very dangerous kind of character. It's something where I wish we would have gotten a little more time with him, just to see, what this really could have been drawn out, because I think there were a lot of elements here that they did um, lightly touch on, but nothing was fully drawn out for me.
Yeah, and to honestly speak about the second game here for a minute. This is something that why I think I like the second game more than the first. Just to speak, because you do talk about how you wish we had more time with certain characters. I feel like the show has done a good job of expanding characters, but it's also one of those things where I agree. I think being someone who played the game and now is watching the show, I'm getting more than what I did previously. But the first game is essentially a road movie, where it's like you are constantly moving from place to place, meeting characters very briefly, interacting, killing, doing things with them, so it's you don't really get that time with them as much, which it does change very drastically in the second game, where you deal with almost two groups, and you get a lot of time with everybody. I will tell you that. So
Yeah.
it is something where I think that they will find their footing a little bit stronger in the second game with that. But yeah, I mean, just knowing what I know going into it, I was very happy with it. I really love this episode as far as the action and the intensity goes. And honestly, as far as translation from video game to show, like this was great. All the moments I was excited for they hit really well. And yeah, I think that just like it, if anything, I know we've been positive about nearly every episode of the show, but I gotta say, like, I think that this fully seeing the intensity of both what Ellie has to go through in this episode as opposed to the game, and what Joel has to turn on and really show again in its full brute force. I think that the quieter moments, the moments of brutality, everything, these two, Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal, just they're doing a fantastic job. And I
Yeah.
think we say that just about every other episode, but like this episode for me solidifies that these were the best casting I think you could have had for these guys.
Yeah, and and I think from a character perspective, I think they covered a lot of ground in just this little episode here. It was shorter than most of the ones that we've seen, but even starting with Ellie doing her own thing, kind of going out and hunting and trying to provide in a sense for a very hurt Joel. I love the way that played out, especially running into David and James at that point, and that kind of little standoff there, and then the moments between Ellie and David, and then finally, when all hell breaks loose. And then I think this, it had good elements of some gore and just some trauma, I think, throughout this episode. I think, a lot of very memorable things that when we eventually go back and look at this season as a whole, I think there are a lot of scenes just from this episode alone that I'm going to remember.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, man, we got one more episode to go, and yeah, it's kind of boggles my mind how quickly it feels like we just got to this, because this just started in. I mean, I know it's March now, but damn, January and February flew.
Yeah, this episode 8, so we've been technically doing this for 2 months.
Yeah, right.
Pretty much.
It's pretty wild, and honestly, I'm really happy with what we've gotten. I think they're gonna nail. By this point, I can say they're going to nail the finale. I don't know how they could mess it up. But yeah, I'm excited for you to get the resolution there, really see again what that is, because I know you said it yourself in this review. You were kind of anticipating that we'd have a 2-episode arc here with David and everything kind of being the climax. No, we got to get Ellie to the spot. They got to get to their destination. So, that's where the climax kind of happens. So I am excited for you to see that. I'm excited to see what they change. I already know that there is going to be a big change. How long we're going to spend with that and how long they're going to, or how they're going to show that, I'm very curious to see. But we will talk about that next week, because I don't want to spoil anymore. So
I'm excited.
Alrighty. But yeah, guys, that's going to wrap us up here for this episode of The Last of Us. Let us know down below how you guys are feeling about this. Again, I think it's a bang up show. I think Luke can say so as well, that we're both very big fans of this. And yeah, I honestly, like, when this ends, I can't wait to kind of talk about it as a whole and really just give you guys our thoughts. And, I'm excited to see when season 2 is going to come. It's probably going to be 2 years, but hey, it'll
Worth
get
the
here
wait.
before we know it. Oh, absolutely. But yeah, other than that, guys, you can definitely check out what's going on the channel right now. We got a lot of good stuff up. We have our collaboration with Evan from Rockland Graves talking about Scream. Yeah, the original. That was a lot of fun. Great video, great channel. Go check his stuff out. And then also, I got to go check out a movie this weekend that I absolutely loved and adored. Children of the Corn, the remake. Yeah, no, that's, if you can't tell the sarcasm in my voice, I apologize. But yeah, check that review out. It's man, that's a movie. That's a movie, all right. But yeah, again, we'll be here next week for the season finale, and then we'll have a wrap-up video probably a couple days after that. So, and oh yeah, before I mention it, I'm probably gonna mention it every video we release up until, but we got a big weekend coming up. So stay tuned, guys. Lots of great stuff hitting the channel. And yeah, I guess until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.